This conference will now be recorded.
Hi, this is Vema Reddy. So today we are going to see how the document properties will be propagating to the document. What exactly the difference between the document property and dynamic document property. Uh, I have already the process is designed. So I'll just go through that how the document property will be utilized here in this process. So the first thing is let me tell you the how the document properties and the dynamic document properties. So first, in general, right? So if it is a if you talk about properties, right? So the property is nothing but it's basically a variable in other language. The property nothing but in other language you can consider it, you can say variable. What exactly the syntax will be? The syntax will be something like uh, something like always the format would be something like variable will be a placeholder where you can store some runtime data. So in even Boomi also similarly the thing is the variables similarly we can call it as a properties. So here we have two different types of properties. One is dynamic document property, other one is actually you can see the there is a document properties, right? So you can see there is a two types of document properties are there. One is document properties and other one is dynamic document property. So the main difference here is the main difference is between the document property and dynamic document property is, so here document property in the sense this one will be used for connector configuration. This one will be used for outbound connector configuration on connector configuration. Let's say for instance an example would be, let's say I want to set a file name for the disk connector. Under disk connector you will see the called file name, or maybe you want to, let's say for other instance, like for JMS or atom JMS connector, maybe you can set the destination queue, or for SFTP, FTP, you can set the file name, all these things. These are the document property. It means document properties, or basically we'll call it as a predefined document properties, because you don't have an option to set the property name. The property names are default. You don't have an option to customize the property name. So whenever you want to go with the customized property name, then that's what basically called dynamic document property. As the name says dynamic, it defines the document property on the fly. It defines the document property on the fly. And that thing is this dynamic document properties is there is a one more property called process property. There is one more property called process property. The difference between the process property and the document property here is basically there is a scope is the only difference. Only scope is difference. Scope is nothing but, let's say this is an entire thing is a process. Okay, this is a process. Okay, and in this process you have a lot of documents you've been passing through. You have a lot of documents you've been processing through. Let's say 5 documents is been passing. Okay, let's assume these 5 documents would be each document would be each document would be an employee information. Okay, an employee information or EMP. Let's say every document you have something like employee ID, employee name, first name, last name, something like the salary is there. So you want to based on, let's say you are wanted to do lookup in DB. You wanted to do something like lookup in DB. You want to look up in DB and say if in case if this particular employee ID, let's say employee ID will be something like 101. If employee ID is 101, you can just need to go ahead and you just need to go ahead and check in this DB first. Check in this DB first. So in case if you if in you know if this particular record already present in this DB, this record already present in this DB, so then what exactly you need to do? You just need to update it. If it is not there, you need to insert it. So basically you wanted to do this kind of a thing. This is the one thing. And other thing is you wanted to update you wanted to update some description. update some description. Then basically, and this one, when the first document comes, the value will be 101. When second document comes, the value will be 102, and when third document comes, the value will be 103. It means the value and property name is always same. Let's say a property name is something like EMP ID. Okay, EMP ID. The property has a different values will be maintaining. So when the first document passing, the value will be 101. When second document is passing, the value will be 102. When third document is passing, value will be 103. It means this document will be this document, if each time the employee ID is a property, dynamic document property, this property will be tagged to this document. When the document changes, the property value is not be present. The document process execution is completed, then even the variable also it is deleted. Maybe you can consider that this for these documents, the properties, the dynamic document properties are kind of, maybe you can consider as headers, so that as long as document is valid, the headers will be, the document properties will be valid. But whereas if you because there's a name, it says document, dynamic document property, these are document specific. These values, the scope will be every document, the value will be preserved for every document. It will be maintained separate copies. Whereas if you see a process property, right? So when multiple documents are flowing, and the process property, each and every time the value will be overwriting. The first document comes, the value will be 101, but when second document comes, right, the value will be 102. 101 will be overwriting. When third document passing, the value will be 103, because all the each happen, what happens in Boomi, right? Every shape will be executed with all documents, then we'll proceed for other documents. When other shape, again other shape, all three documents will be executed when other, because every shape will be executed with all possible documents, all number of documents. Then every document, in every time the process property gets executed, the value with the first document will be 101, but when it comes to second document, the value will be overridden. It's not maintaining a separate copy. That's the main thing. So we'll see a simple use case here, how the thing is there. Document properties are used. So I have a one file. This is something like user information, where I have like very small fields: username, identify, first name and last name. In this one, I was trying to insert the data into a database. Here I was using a MariaDB database. The MariaDB, you can see that information already there in database. You can see all this information is there in database. So let's say if the particular user name is already there, if this particular username already there, then what I need to do is, I need to just append underscore Boomi. Whatever the value is there in table, I need to pick that value from this. Let's say I wanted to update identifier column. So first I'll go ahead and look up this record in DB based on username. If the username is already present, then I'll pick the value corresponding identifier value. Then this identifier value will be appended with underscore Boomi. So let me just remove this, so that we'll get to know once we run it. I have already designed a process. I'll go through it here. So you want to see the behavior, right? You can just check with you just replace the process properties, you will see the difference. Let's say here what I was doing, I was just splitting it because I wanted to do a lookup on every record by record. So I have splitting it based on the record, first line as a column headers. And so that what I am setting here is at first I'm just doing a lookup here. I'm just doing a lookup here. If the lookup is already present, how I am doing a lookup here? Based on the username, I'm just trying to get the value identifier. This is only just required only in case if user is already present. If user is not there, it's not required. Then I was storing that value, means I'm getting this value based on the username. I'm storing it in a dynamic document property called identifier. And this one again, I'm trying to combining with this, concatenating the identifier value with underscore Boomi. You can say I'm just use the same dynamic document property value. It means for every document, what happens here, the value will be fetched and the value will be appended, and this value will be preserved for every document. It will not be clubbed with the first document, the other document. And the record is present, doing a similar lookup here. The record is present here. then I'm checking value. Based on that, I'm looping it. So I can directly, because I'm just checking only this record is, if the record is present, I'm just taking this value. I can maybe proceed further. So here I'm just inserting the data into database. It's just a plain insert. You can see the sample. It's a dynamic insert. Basically, I'm using it. The dynamic insert. It's insert the record, and it's if it's recorded already present, I'm just appending the value. I'm trying to update one of the value. The update statement I've written with here, update boomi user set identifier where username equal to here. So here the flag, because I'm getting a same flat file here, I'm based on username, I'm filtering criteria. I passed the username from the flat file profile. And whereas the dynamic document property, this is a property, it's been already concatenated with underscore boomi to the existing value in db. Okay, now let me remove all these records once, so that we'll have let me run it once, so we'll get to know that how the execution happens. Since I'm reading the file here, you will see only one document will be there. After the document, I'm data process. You can see here, I'm trying to read the file. So this is my file content here. You can see this one. After that, I'm trying to split with the data process using splitting. I'm trying to do, so one document becomes, how many documents, it been a 6 documents approximately, 1 2 3 4 5 6 documents. And each and every document we were evaluating the condition based on the lookups here. So you can even verify that. Even you can just go ahead and see how many documents went here. So you can see the data process and record present. It actually decision shape comes with the 6 documents, and out of 6 documents, the connector, the map shape is executed with 6 documents. It means all the records got executed. Condition is successful. So the no records are there. So all documents get executed here, and the records went for the success, and all the record will be inserted into here. So there is no properties we much defined here. We were not using anything here, but I'm trying to update with one of the record. I'm trying to update with the one of the record. Here you can see the execution, how that happens is, from here to here there are 6 document comes. It's not something like how the execution will happen. 6 document will be executed with the decision shape. After 6 document executed, whether it need to go for false or true false, it will come 6 documents here, and again 6 document will be executed, and again 6 document will be executed with this connector shape. So it means if you are using a process property or some dynamic process property, right? If the same shape get executed 6 times, the process property, what it will do, 6 times the value will be overridden and the last value will be stored. Whereas the document property, 6 times it maintain a 6 copies. So let me rerun the same process, because by the time if we run it, the record will be already there in db. So this time all the condition will be gets true, and the value will be trying to update it here. So if you see the the SQL statement value, you'll get to know. So you can see same 6 document gets executed here, and on all conditions went true here. So let's say you can see 6 documents came, and in this one, if you just observe this value, right? Let me maximize this. For the first case, what I was trying to do is, instead of you go one by one, I think it will be better. You can go ahead directly here. You can see the select statement here. Okay, the first executing SQL statement would be update boomi username set identifier equal where username, and parameters will be broker 12 underscore boomi. Here you can see only broker 12 is there. So for that, I was appended and stored that value in a dynamic document property. For that dynamic document property, I appended with underscore boomi. So if you see the second one, if you executed this one, right, you can see all records got executed. But if you see the same thing, right, because how this happened is either here 6 document executed, and 6 documents executed, and the value 6 times it done query and appended the values. First, in the first case, broker 12 underscore boomi, it has maintained a one property called what is the property we referred it, identifier append. Identifier append is a dynamic document property. It has maintained the value. Same dynamic document property identifier underscore append is the different value. When first document comes, value will be uh, this value will be preserved, and second document this value will be preserved. The variable is same, the dynamic document property is same, but values will be maintained respect to the documents. But whereas if you just to see for process property, right, so you won't see this one. So let's say this one, maybe you can just make it as a process property so that you will see the difference here. You can make it as a process property. I can take this one, change this to process properties. So there is no change here. Let's even change this one to, okay. So even we were updating here also. Let's update this one also here. So let's remove these records, rerun this, save. Let it run to the first time. The records will be inserted into DB. Okay, inserted. Now let's run, because it's it will be some lagging will be there in the UI, but on behind screen it's already run. And now let's rerun this. So you will see the difference here. Let me take the screenshot here so that it will be more easy for us to compare. I have not yet refreshed. Let me refresh it now. You can see that after refresh, before what happens? Broker on score 12. Why? Because everything is got updated with Smith 80. Our intention is to update with actual value underscore booming. Actual value underscore booming. So what happens here is, as I mentioned here, six documents got true, and the condition came here. And what happens is, first document, right, if you observe this one, the first document value will be based on broker ID. It fetches the value, fetches the based on value. Identifier came as a broker 12. There is no problem. It's a lookup is done properly, and we were able to retrieve the value as per this broker 12. After that, what happens here? Broker 12. So next, and this value is setting input parameter, and this value is what happened, it's stored in a it's stored in a dynamic process property, and for that property the value is appended here, broker 12 underscore boomi. Okay, this is appended, fine. This value, for the first document, that value was properly formed, broker 12 underscore boomi. And when it comes to the second document, because it's the same shape, is get executed for how many documents? 7 documents, right? So before moving the 7 documents, one document here, it's not something like one document executed with set property and the next document executed here. It's not like sequential processing. The shape will be executed with all documents. So happens the next time, what happens, it's in second document will be gray, so the value is gray underscore, next value will be underscore boomi. So this time, instead of maintaining a separate copy, so it has overwritten the previous value, broker 12 underscore boomi, with overridden with gray 70 underscore boomi. So like that, it has done everything, overridden. The what would be the last document here? Last document would be Smith here. Last document would be Smith here. So because of Smith comes here, so where, and it's not maintaining the one, so all the documents got, when by the time it comes here, what the value is? Smith. So even though it is usernames are different, but all the values get updated with wrong data, because the problem here is document property value is not maintaining respect to the document. In our case, what we need the value to be respected, we need value to be preserved respect to the document. In the first document, this, because in our case this is the first document, and when this document is going, the value should be preserved. When this document is going, the value should be specific. So this is how exact use case for to see the difference between the process and document properties. Process properties are meant for process level. The scope is wider scope, global scope, whereas the document properties are because in one process you can see as many number of documents. But if you want to maintain a document properties, maybe you can say in Java perspective, document property is a local variable. It is scope is within a document, but whereas a process property is a outer scope. It's a global. So once you define, the value can be overridden as many for every document. Whereas for a document property, local variable means every loop, every document have a separate copy will be maintained. That's a main difference between process and document properties. I hope it has clarified the difference between when to use process, when to use document properties. There is nothing much difference between the dynamic and process property component. There is a one more component called process properties component here. So the problem with the dynamic concept, right? As the name dynamic, right? What happens here? Whenever you say dynamic, irrespective of document property or process property, you are always what you are trying to do. You are copy pasting the names. So let's say you define a value here, and you wanted this value to be reused here. You wanted to reuse this value here, but you always need to remember this value. You need to type it always. If because process properties or document property, whatever names are case sensitive, and if you give a name something wrong, the value will not be retrieved here. It means each and every time you need to copy paste the value exactly what you have, the way how you defined. It means it's you as part of you developing a business process, right? You may be required to define a lot of process or document properties, but it's very difficult for us to remember all these values. That's the reason to overcome this headache for the developer, the Boomi has come up with a process property where you no need to type it manually. You can type it once. You can type it once, and all the values will be available as a drop down. Let's say you can just click on here. You can type it to all the process properties here. You can define it once. This is the one problem. Is the one problem. Other problem is always whenever you store the value in a dynamic document process properties, you don't have an option to specify what kind of a value you wanted to store it. By default, process document properties always store in string format. So this is the one more thing with the process properties. The two thing is, you don't need to each and every time you don't need to type the property name. Let's say document ID. You don't need to type it always. And and one more thing, you can have the what type of a data you want to store it. Even the default value also you can also specify in the earlier case as well. Let's say we can see, instead of you type it, right, you can directly select it, something like go for the process properties here. Okay, so you can directly draw, you can use the drop down and you can define it. That's the only difference between the dynamic process property and process property. There is nothing, the functionality wise there is no difference. Only thing is, for developer it's more easy for us to select the values instead of you remembering and typing each and every time. So that makes a lot of mistakes. And the other thing is, you can specify the what type of data you want to store it. Other than that, there is no difference between process property and dynamic process property. All are same. Okay, you can see dynamic process property. Earlier, only dynamic process property is there. There is no process property. As part of the release, they come up with this process property. So in all this process, dynamic process property, the scope will be a process level, global scope. We can define a parent process, you can use in child process, whatever it is. But whereas in document property, all document properties are nothing but these all standard document properties, all character values. These are predefined. You don't have an option to specify the file property name. But whereas in dynamic document property, you can type whatever the name you want. So the document property, dynamic document functionality same. Both these values will be respected respect to the document. But whereas process property, scope is. I can say in Java terminology, document properties are local variable, process properties are global variable. That's a simple difference. We can say that. I hope it clarifies exact difference between the document properties and flat process properties. Okay, thank you for watching video. If you have any doubts, you can comment me in the comment section.